Hi guys, I'm Carolina. So I work at Snapchat, which you will very obviously be able to tell with a vomiting rainbow that's about to be on the screen, hopefully, quite soon. Just a little bit about what kind of I work on at Snapchat is I look after our AR solutions. So yes, that includes a lot of our business and ad products, but also more broadly, kind of a lot of our AR core products that we bring to our consumers. Really excited to talk to you guys today about a lot of different things that we're working on and really kind of take a step back and think about some of the consumer applications that we've seen. Where have we seen success? There we go. That looks like Snapchat, doesn't it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. This presentation and the type of content we have, it might be a little bit close to time. So if I go a little bit fast, I'm sorry about that. But I'll be around afterwards for questions if you have any. So at Snapchat, our vision for the future is a vision where computing is overlaid on the world. That's what we talk about. That's kind of the goal, and that's what we're working towards. And so many of the different things that we're working on are really foundational elements to build to this future of computing overlaid on the world. And what's great about being here is that it's actually an audience that probably to some extent also believes that's a future that they believe in. And so you're really talking to an audience that knows what I'm talking about. But we've been talking about AR for a long time. And even though it feels like a lot of the conversation around AR has definitely been escalating more recently, if you look at the Google Trend search results for the term augmented reality, this is actually not from the last few years, but actually from the last 10 years. And you guys know that well. It feels like we've been saying that AR is the future, that AR is going to revolutionize so many industries. It's going to change the way you walk to work, the way that you consume so much of your daily life. But the reality is that hasn't really happened yet. We're not seeing it so much in that everyday life. And so the question is why? Why hasn't it come to fruition yet? And what can we do to accelerate that? And when can we actually expect to see such a groundbreaking change in how people are living their lives? Not a lot of separate use cases that are very valuable and have proven themselves, but aren't as widely adopted. When can augmented reality actually just be reality? And so at Snap, our core focus around how we bring this to actual life is by focusing on this, which is the camera. And probably not the camera that we're focused on today. Cameras have changed so much over the last few decades, from this clunky hardware that you wear around your neck to basically a piece of software. And that's really been such a huge change in the life cycle of the camera. And the reason why the camera is just so important is because it's really the lens of a camera that gives you the window into human experience. It's what can actually connect the physical world with the power of the internet. And the camera is what allows you to connect those two core things. And so our strategy and our focus with the camera is all about how do we really bring in the camera into this new era and allow it to really allow this future of computing overlaid of the world. And our strategy is focused on these three core things: access, adoption, and content. And while this is a key part of what we're working on, we really believe that the industry at large starts to focus on each of these things in a really specific way, which many of you in the room are doing. There's going to be a lot of winners across the board who are able to win early and take advantage of these shifts and changes. So the first one on accessibility. I think the industry talks a lot about wearables. We also believe in a future that wearables is going to be the necessary ingredient for computing overlaid on the world. But today, right now, the smartphone is something that we can all tap into with scale. Right? The smartphone, and you look at that ownership change of 2008, 220 million smartphone owners, to today, a 2.8 billion, huge increase in the number of smartphone owners. And the reason why that's important is just because accessibility completely changed. And while we were talking about AR 10 years ago, it didn't come to life because actually being able to render AR from an everyday consumer standpoint was extremely difficult. But now everyone has a camera in the palm of their hand throughout the entire day. But it's not just owning a camera, which is now in the palm of your hand, it's using it. Apple reported last year that over 1 trillion photos are taken on their camera every single year. And the thing about Apple is that they don't just have it as a feature. They prioritize the camera. If you look at just how the phone looks, the fact that there's that shortcut to a camera shows you how much the camera is prioritized. And when we think about consumer adoption of AR, and we know that the camera is the first step into getting into an AR experience, then we need to prioritize how quickly someone can jump in to that experience and access that camera. At Snapchat, that's core to our platform. We say we're a camera company, and what we mean by that is we believe that the camera is more than taking photos. And actually, when you open up Snapchat, it opens straight to the camera. Now, this is probably one of the most jarring experiences if you're not a Snapchat user. You open it up and you're like, oh God, like double chin, what's going on? Why? It's very different because it's completely at odds with what you expect when you open up an app, which is a feed. What we've been trained as people in the digital era and the internet era is a feed of content. But this UX of opening up straight into the camera just feels weird. But it's intentional. And although we could have opened up to a feed, and that probably could have helped us with growth some early on, there was a lot of reason why we opened to the camera. And it was because we wanted the mindset within this app to be camera first, to be create first, to be look around first, not lean back and not just consume. And it worked. 60% of our 200 million daily users create every day. Think about how often you create on another platform, that you actually post something. You post when you have something cool to share. And you post when it's a curated, beautiful imagery of your life. Our app is completely different. And this prioritization of the camera, this difference in how you should think about the camera, really has led to this. And in fact, that's resulting in more than 3.5 billion snaps taken every single day, which is more than 1.2 trillion per year, so even more than Apple devices globally. So the fact that this is highly prioritized for us is really important. And it's not that our app is just an app to take photos. When we talk about the camera, our camera does so much more than taking a photo. Within our camera, you can figure out what the weather is. And in fact, most of our users stopped using specific weather applications because they actually just figure out what to wear that day based on the Snapchat camera. They use our camera for visual search to figure out what product they're looking at. They use it for audio search to actually integrate with Shazam and figure out what song is playing. They're using our app to play games. And of course, they're using our app to interact with augmented reality. AR is prioritized in our app. AR is actually just one tap away. So we open straight to the app, 200 million daily users, and with one tap on the screen, AR is rendered. And so this, again, this prioritization around accessibility, the more drop-offs you give people to drop off, the more they're going to drop off. So the easier you can make it for someone to just jump right into AR is going to be really important because it's so new. And again, this has allowed us to really scale AR. 70% of our 200 million users interact with AR every single day. That's over 140 million daily AR users and people viewing AR content. We're the largest platform for AR usage today, consumer AR usage. And I think one thing that's really excited about this is that this audience has already started to figure out what it is and what you can do. It's the beginning of a generation of people who understand the camera in a brand new way. More than 250 million minutes are spent playing with AR on the platform daily. Now, we don't believe that access to the camera is just going to be limited to your phone. We believe that in order to really envision this future of computing overlaid on the world, you really do need to take the screen away that's cutting you off from the actual physical world, which the mobile phone does. And so we make our own separate investments in hardware, which is our Spectacles product. This is our most recent launch. Our investment in Spectacles is not because we think that we're going to beat Apple to the wearable game. It's really because we want to test, iterate, and understand what it means to interact with cameras when they're on your face. We want to know what good content what good content is used, how people interact with it, what they like, what should the UX be, what should the creative experiences be, and ultimately, how can we start to build out a content repository? This is an early step in order for us to iterate and learn. And this is an example of the brand new content that can now be published in Spectacles, because the cameras in Spectacles now have depth. And so AR is just starting to be introduced into this product, and eventually something that you'll see more and more of. So really, this entire first point, the strategy that we focus on, but really the strategy we believe other people should focus on if they want to drive more growth with AR, is just reducing the friction in the access point to the camera first, and then to AR. The more steps you have, the more buried it is, the harder it is to find, the less people you are going to have kind of enter that experience. The second core part of our strategy is obviously all around adoption. So you might have something that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use it. But before you adopt something, you have to understand it. Augmented reality. That is a tough term to understand if you're an everyday consumer and you're not someone that's even knows about Augmented World Expo. We're in an industry that for the everyday consumer, the technical terms we use and how we describe the things we talk about just doesn't work. We need to think about how to talk to the everyday consumer if you're really trying to go there. And the everyday consumer has this in mind when they think of the camera. This is the official Oxford Dictionary definition of the camera, a device for recording visual images. The camera is no longer that. We actually need to call them up and be like, you should change it, because the camera was invented as a device to actually take a photo, to record something. But with the rise of AI, AR, computer vision, it has completely changed what a camera means. A camera is going from something that the sole purpose was to take a picture to a device for entertainment. So often we talk about Pokemon Go in this industry, but the reason why I'm showing it is actually more because if you are even enabling AR within Pokemon Go, you're not using it to take a photo. You're using it to catch that Pokemon. And so there's no reason to actually capture. If you're using it for shopping, again, you're using it for visualization. You're not using a camera for the purpose of capturing. Even if you're using it for search. So this is within Snapchat. Our partnership with Amazon allows you to visually search for products. Our partnership with Photomath allows you to solve math problems, much to the dismay of every parent ever. And our own technology allows us to recognize that you're actually pointing to a dog and then be able to really render the right recognition of AR experiences tied to that dog. And so search, again, another use case for the camera, not tied to taking a photo, which is what people traditionally think of when they see a camera. They think that what they should do is take a photo when they see a camera. And that's what we really have to change. This is another great use case, which is around how does the camera become something of an amazing tool for education. So this is actually something that just kind of launched today in Germany, which was a partnership with a zoo where their message of education was all about how do we get the message out there of endangered species. Well, what they do is they have certain habitats where a tiger should be and an elephant should be, and they actually removed the animals. And instead, the only way you can see the animal is through AR. And the entire message to the consumer is, unless you start to care about this cause, in the future, everyone will only experience these animals through AR because they won't even exist anymore. Allowing people to really feel that message, not just read about it, and allow them to actually take action and donate. So all of those use cases are interesting, are compelling, and I think a lot of companies have done a really good job paving the way for the beginnings of what that's going to look like. However, when I think about IKEA, I love IKEA. I don't even know how many Malm desks and drawers I've bought over the years, but I don't shop at IKEA every day. And so when we think about this future that people talk about, that AR is everywhere, and we've all seen those videos, you're walking to work and it's everywhere and it's kind of atrocious. Well, the reality is in order to make that a reality, we have to focus on everyday needs. And that's actually something that not everyone is building for. Communication is the key everyday need that at Snapchat we have decided to build around. This strategy of focusing on AR for communication is what's really led to the mass scale that we're seeing today. Now, when we talk about communication, you really have to understand the last 100 years and shifts of communication, because there's been a really important shift with this younger generation that I don't think everybody realizes yet. When I think about my grandmother and how she would communicate, it was by picking up a pen and paper and writing her friends a letter. Then all of a sudden, the invention of the telephone meant that my mom could call her friends on the phone. Think about that difference in society, how many friends you had, how you lived your life, huge impact. When I think about myself, and please excuse the extremely awkward photo I'm about to show, text messaging is the main way I talk to my friends. And in fact, if someone calls you on the phone, you automatically think, what's wrong? Or you're pregnant, or, I mean, that's it, right? It's like big life moments. No one calls you anymore. Text messaging completely changed the way that we interact. But there's actually been another shift in how people are communicating. When I think of my cousin and how she communicates with her friends, it is by taking a photo. Visual communication has actually started to replace a lot of text-based communication. And we've actually been inching toward this a bit over the last few years. Texting, everyone adopted because it was so convenient. It was great. But you know what it didn't have is it lacked the richness of face-to-face communication. Tone, expression, hand motions, like I'm doing right now, all of that gets totally lost with text. And so you saw the rise of emojis, and then avatars, and GIFs, and memes, because it's a lot more expressive to say, I feel like crap today, when you have a hilarious meme doing it, than just saying, I feel like crap today. Then you just sound like you're complaining, and nobody wants that. But this generation, this next generation of Gen Zs and millennials, the way that they communicate is with the camera. We like to call them the camera native generation, because they were raised with the camera, because they were raised with a phone. And the key defining factor of what we mean by this is that they're as comfortable with a camera as you are with a keyboard. When I open up a camera, even though I work at Snapchat, and even though I talk about this, I still feel a little bit like, oh, okay, you gotta like look good. This younger generation, they open up a camera and they're so natural. They don't have that little bit of an unease. They don't have a little bit of the awkwardness. They are so calm and natural, and it's intuitive because they were raised with it. That just comfort level is so important to the future of AR really taking off. Because if you're requiring people to be involved with the camera in order to unlock a lot of these experiences, you want them comfortable. And it took time for people to get really comfortable with texting. And it actually took time for people to get really comfortable navigating different websites on the web. But over time, you get comfortable, and it's just the underlying behavior shift that needs to happen before everything else can layer on top. And this generation is that generation. But just like I started texting before my mom did, my mom now texts, right? She's super savvy. No, everyone texts now because it was better, it was more convenient. And so just even though this Gen Z and millennial generation are camera natives, and maybe they're expressing themselves over camera before you are, that's okay. Eventually more people will, because it's a richer form of communication. And I'm talking about communication. And so to give you a personal example, my brother, he recently got married, and in typical millennial style, he decided to have a destination wedding, which I'm sure you guys love. My parents hated it. So anyway, so they had a destination wedding, and the venue was 2 hours from the closest airport. So my brother and I arranged to leave from the airport at the same time so we could share a car. So my brother, his name is Donato. We're Cuban, so yep, that's actually his name. This isn't an anonymous name I chose. He says, hi, just landed. I said, great. He says, where do I meet you? And I say, baggage claim bar. Communication. This is how we text dozens of times a day. This is not how we communicated. Instead, my brother sent me this. Where are you? Just landed. He's about to get married. He's very excited. And I responded with this. I'm at the bar waiting for you. This is the exact same conversation, except we did it through photos. This is what I mean about communication, and this is what I mean by talking with pictures. This is important because you don't just take a couple photos on the weekend for that cool moment you want to commemorate. How many times a day do you text? This is how many times a day this generation is using the camera. Multiple times throughout the day. And they're not taking a photo to like look great and post it to a bunch of their followers. We took these photos just for each other, just in the moment, never to be seen again, except for now it's like immortalized in this presentation. But it was for no one else but each other at that moment. And so when you think about the camera, and you think about camera usage, and you think about this younger generation, and how you want to connect with them, whether you're a business, whether you're an advertiser, whether you're a creator, it's really important you start to understand the language that this generation uses. And so it's one key part of adoption is also around knowing how, right? Okay, so now I'm there, you got me there. I'm in the camera, I'm doing it all the time. And maybe even I got into the AR experience because it was so easy, it was one tap away. But what do I do now? How do we teach people around the fundamentals of actually how to interact with AR? And if we look at websites as the parallel, at the very beginning of the web, websites were atrocious. They looked horrible. They were really hard to navigate. There was so much information, and it was so disorganized. But something happened over time. What happened was at the very top of almost every website you go to, you know that you could probably find a menu bar. That you know in that upper left corner, something's going to be there that's going to allow you to kind of sift through the right pages or the right pieces of content. That UX of knowing how to navigate the web actually was fundamental for people to get comfortable with the web, to know what to do with the web. But for AR, we don't yet have this one consistent place that someone knows where to go and what to do. I know I can scroll, I know I can kick, and I know that the menu bar is over here. And so over time, we need to develop that UX because that's the only way that people, no matter if they're interacting with AR on Snapchat, on a different application, in their home, in your store, wherever it is, in the warehouse, there is some consistency in that UX. This is our hot dog. And I think what's interesting about this hot dog is it is one of the other things about Snapchat that oftentimes makes the perception of our company something that's fun and silly, but not necessarily serious or very technically advanced. But this hot dog is so important for AR. Why? Well, it's been viewed over 1.5 billion times just within Snapchat. And the reason why this is important is because it's taken hundreds of millions of people into an experience where they started to learn, oh wait, this isn't a 2D hot dog that was placed on top. I can walk around this thing. All of a sudden, people now start to understand that in AR, a 3D element is something you can walk around. They didn't understand that before. It's permanent in place. You understand that because you're a technical expert. They don't. They don't know what they're looking at. It also taught them that this element is reactive to their environment. Don't worry, he can move with the train. But that's really what it taught it. Oh, wait, wow, it's not just in place. It's actually something that can react to things around it. This is a basic understanding of what the technology can do that is so important for us to be able to build and scale this behavior more. You need to give people the fundamentals. And this hot dog might seem silly, but this hot dog got the job done at the very beginning, right? Very early phases of AR, but we're teaching massive amounts of the average consumer what it means. And so the last kind of key component is around content. Now, with content, like in many other industries, content needs to be good and content needs to be scaled. You need a lot of it. And that's a particular challenge. And so when we think about businesses that are really going to succeed over the next 5 to 10 years, really even over the next 1 to 2 years, businesses that can figure out and crack the code on how to scale out content and how to make a lot of it that's good quality, that's going to be a huge area for winning. What makes good content? We have aired a lot of AR on the platform. We have had a lot of engagement, as you guys saw with those numbers. So what have we seen works? The number one thing that works is relevancy. How do you make sure your content is relevant? So there's two experiences right here on the screen. There's the silly rainbow vomit that people know and love, and there's this Westworld example. Both are extremely successful. That Westworld example has so many amazing technical feats that went into that. So seamless, so beautiful, included dynamic elements actually automatically updated with users' information like their name and their location. So really an amazing kind of feat of what could be built in AR. But what was common in both of them, and kind of one of the fundamental truths for why they were both successful, was that they both had the face in them. Your face is always relevant. Who knew? Your face is relevant. That's why face works. And the reality is I know a lot of people in AR want to only focus and talk about the world because there's a lot of interesting applications, and I'm there. I agree. But we should not forget about the face, because it's easy to make sure that it's going to land just by nature of the fact that the person is in it. We're a bit narcissistic as people, so we like to see ourselves. But more than that, it just automatically means that at least you'll have some connection to it. And that piece of connection is important. But what about the world? What about flipping the camera, and what works on the world? So similarly, you work in the world. So if it's a digital avatar of yourself, then of course you're able to bring yourself into the world. A lot of kind of new growth in volumetric recordings, which is really interesting also for the world side. It's also about your interests. If you are a huge football fan, football, see, not soccer, I got this, and you want to walk into the FCP Barcelona stadium, you can with AR. If you're a football fan, you're going to love this, right? If you're not a football fan, you're not. You're not going to walk in, or you're going to walk in, you're going to pop in, you're going to say, no, not for me. I'm going to exit. Thanks. So what's important with this is that you're targeting your experiences to people that have those interests. And so how you think about targeting, how do you think about delivery? Good content is all about what's in the content, but who you're talking to. So how could you really refine the customer and the consumer before you even start building? And the last one is your world. If you can take something that's is physically in front of someone, or a place that they're at, and bring that to life, you're automatically going to be very, very relevant. So this is an example of Nike and LeBron James inside Foot Locker stores. They always have a poster inside Foot Locker. All we did is make it something that comes to life and is more than just what's physically present. This topic of physical location and location as a signal and your physical world is obviously an area that's a lot of people are investing a lot of energy into, and us included. Our first step in mapping the world so that the world can actually have computing overlaid on it everywhere is this new tool called Landmarker. So this is a short video about that.
Hi, I'm Ki Pan, computer vision engineer at Snap. My team's job in London is to make the Snapchat camera smarter by enabling it to see and recognize the world around it, just like the human eye. But let me take a step back. For hundreds of years, the human eye has been drawn to the buildings around us, and our fascination with them is pretty evident. Nowadays, we take more photos of these buildings than ever before, and it can be hard to find a fresh perspective. So we started thinking, how can we empower people to look at these monuments in new ways? The short answer is, we took public snaps that people had submitted to our stories and used them to reconstruct 3D models of these buildings. Through the process, we gained the ability to recognize the landmarks with pinpoint precision and understand their geometry, enabling amazing AR experiences that interact with the buildings themselves. We then put these models into Lens Studio, so anyone could create AR for, say, the Eiffel Tower or Buckingham Palace. To really kick this off in style, we sent the feature to some of our very own official lens creators and gave them the freedom to bring their home city landmarks to life using their unique creative vision.
Lenses turn the world into a living museum. To know that my lens is placed on Buckingham Palace is an amazing thing. Obviously, I come from London, so I'm super happy to know that I've done something that people can enjoy when they come and visit. I think the Queen, I really hope she would like it now.
Now, anyone can add a fresh perspective to their world with Landmarkers in Lens Studio. We can't wait to see what you create.
Awesome, yeah, so those are our landmarkers. Again, just the beginning of how we can start to map the world. And when we map the world, how do we make that map actually publicly available so that anyone can design against it? And that really brings us to the next point, which is around how do you build scale. So interesting around building scale, we really believe that you need to allow and have an open platform and an open ecosystem where different types of creators, developers, technologists, everyone can contribute, even everyday people who you might not think can build in AR, but actually with the advancement of new tools, they actually can. How do you build an ecosystem where you have enough content to serve so that people can come back to you? How do you make things sticky, not just interesting the first time around? We do that through Lens Studio. So Key had just mentioned that in that video. Lens Studio, for those of you who are not aware, is our software for AR creation. It's free to the public. You can download it. We launched it at the end of 2017. Now, this software, and what's amazing about it is you can use it if you're someone who's actually not a 3D artist, you're maybe a 2D artist, or you're just someone who wants to experiment and we have templates that you could use. Or if you're the most advanced creator, you can write your custom scripts and really do something totally from scratch. There's been over 500,000 lenses created from our community since we've launched in 2017. So when you talk about scale of content, this is something that we're really excited about. In terms of the tools that we give our community for distribution, there's really two key ways that this tool is allowed for creators to distribute. The first one is organically. So non-paid, you're just submitting it to Lens community. When you submit to our community, what does it mean? It means that you're going to be given a link to be able to share it with your friends. It also means that you could be featured in Lens Explorer, which is our just tool for our users to find lenses. It means you'll be available for search. If someone's searching within the app for twerking peach, then maybe you'll come up, because that was one of the top lenses we've had. But it's interesting because what we've done is we've trained an entire generation on using the camera a lot and using AR a lot. And what it provides with Lens Studio is very rapid fire experimentation. You want to test how an AR asset, an AR experience, even a utility one, not necessarily a creative one, is going to land and get immediate feedback. Push it out to our community because they're there, they're trained on how to use AR, and they're actually actively looking for experiences. Even if you don't have your own profile, even if you're someone who doesn't have a network, actually because of the discoverability in the app, a lot of creators are seeing this growth in people looking for content. And I think that's really important. The traditional social model and how people think of Instagram and Facebook is that you need an organic presence, and that's really the starting point for how you push into those platforms. But ours is really different. We're much more of a best friends network. 203 million daily users, but really it's a lot of people with their close friends talking with their close friends. But AR is something that's highly discoverable with our core users. Now, the second way that you can take your content out and kind of promote it more in the app is obviously through sponsorship. So brands can pay to sponsor their AR experiences. Creators can make on behalf of brands and upload it right into their ad stack so that right from their same ad buying tools where they're paying to promote their video ads, they can actually pay to promote their lens, their AR lens, and have it appear directly in our carousel. And so what's interesting about this is that when a client is paying for an impression, they're not paying for a view in a feed where someone has the opportunity to click into your AR experience. An impression is actually a render on the face or a world-side render. So your impressions that you're paying for is exact engagement distribution. What you get from there, people sharing it, people seeing it in a view, that's all added gravy. And the reason why we're able to do that and actually guarantee camera distribution for AR is because the camera is used so much on the platform. Now, what we really believe when it comes to marketing is that while the last 10 years have been about social media marketing, because that's where everyone was spending all their time, the next 10 years is going to be about this new thing called camera marketing. Because again, it's where people are spending a lot of their time. And the reason why this is unique for advertisers is because it is fragmented out there with attention. It is hard to capture people's attention, and most people are in a leaned back environment. But when you're distributing your advertising through the camera, you're guaranteeing engagement. You're guaranteeing someone being leaned in and looking to listen. And that's a very interesting position to be able to storytell and connect with consumers. At Snapchat, we have sort of pioneered camera and AR advertising. We started pushing AR advertising 4 years ago, and now the industry is just catching up with many of our other features that we've launched over the years. But what this means is that we've actually aired tens of thousands of AR campaigns. We're not experimenting, does AR marketing work? We're actually iterating on how it is most effective for consumer packaged goods versus retail versus automotive. How does it work for awareness upper funnel or for conversion lift? Because that's really the volume of what we've been able to do on the platform. And so what I'd say around the marketing front is that we should really remove any preconceived notions of AR for brands is when you're trialing the exact beauty shade and then buying it, or the furniture and then buying it. It's great for that. But actually, it can also be great for upper funnel as well. AR can be throughout the funnel. It all depends on how you're targeting your ad, what the creative looks like, and ultimately what the brand wants. And so here are 3 kind of showcases, and then I got to wrap up because I think I'm late.